Hey, what's up? It's Jake, and the next thing we're going to go over is using the HashiCorp Cloud Packer Registry. So let's go take a look at my account. So I logged into HCP here. This is the HashiCorp Cloud Platform, or HCP as it is affectionately known. And we're going to play around with this and Packer. So make sure you have Packer installed locally. Make sure you have an HCP account. An AWS account with cred set as local environment variables. Make sure you have permission to modify EC2 instances, create, delete, etc., and whatever permissions you need to run the Amazon EBS builder, which is what I've been using here for pretty much all this stuff. Well, this one's Docker, but I did a previous video on Amazon. So yeah, as soon as you have all that, you're going to see Packer services on the left, which we have here. And we'll want to look for Packer under the navigation menu. Notice this is in beta, by the way. So you have to enable the HCP Packer registry before Packer can publish build metadata to it. So we're going to click on create a free registry. And after clicking on that guy, it's creating. And you only need to do this once, by the way. So as soon as it's done, it's done. Now, in HCP, we have to go to IAM and over here, and we're going to select the Service Principals tab. So while that's creating, let's come over here and Service Principals. No principals found. So you have to create a service principal named Packer with a contributor role. So we're going to create a service principal called Packer, all lowercase, with a contributor role. Okay. So once you create the service principal, you can click the service principal name to view its details and generate a key. So here's the ID, all this other stuff, and we want to create a service principal key. Okay. And this will create a client ID and secret. There we go. I'm deleting this as soon as it's done, so I don't care if you see it. Chris, copy and save a client ID and secret. You'll not be able to retrieve the secret later. You have to use these credentials. So we're just going to copy this sucker, and I'm going to open up like Notepad, and I'm just going to stick this client ID and client secret in here. Close. Cool. Now we're going to set environment variables. So I'm going to, after you generate the keys, you set the client ID secret as environment variables, basically so Packer can authenticate. So let's go ahead and clear this guy. We'll delete this guy. And then we're going to run an export HCP client ID equals, and then where's my notepad? Grab this client ID. Boom. And then we'll do the same thing for export HCP client secret equals, grab my secret. It's super secret. It's got a secret. And that's set. And Packer will use these credentials to automatically push our image metadata to our registry. So now we can clone our little tutorial repository. I'm in the Packer tutorial still. Let's go back one to just Packer, and let's get clone this guy, learn HCP Packer get started. And then as soon as it's cloned, I'm just going to go CD to that new repo directory. So what is it? Learn that. Yeah. And then we can go ahead and see here, I've got this all opened up and we've got some files already. So we're going to review this Packer template. We've got a, let's see, Packer application. What else we got? A TF channel. Okay, so a little Terraform action going on. All right, so we're going to open this Ubuntu Xenial Packer HCL. And this Packer template uses an Amazon plugin v102 or later. This version it cloned is 101, so there's a little discrepancy in the documentation there. But there are two source blocks, so let's go look at this. You got Amazon EBS and Amazon AMI. This build's Ubuntu 16.04. Where's my AMI? Yeah, 16.04. One for US East 2 and US West 2. So we see East 2 and West 2. This enables Packer to run your builds in parallel. So the HCP Packer registry block, if we go up here, lets you customize metadata the Packer sends to HCP registry. All right, so let's look at our build block here. So here's our Packer registry. Here's our bucket. We've got a description, some nice description about the image. Very, very nice. And then there's even a foo version. Very cool. All right, so we're going to go ahead and build this image from here. So let's do a Packer init dot. Don't forget your dot. Cool. And then a little Packer format as a best practice. And I was just kidding. Format. Corrected a couple things. Okay, by default, Packer will take the head get SHA for the template file to create a build fingerprint. So in this case, like the head of the repository that we cloned. The recommended version controlling your Packer template file to avoid creating the fingerprint yourself. Okay, so if Packer doesn't detect a blueprint fingerprint, you just can't build the template. So now I'll go ahead and build this image with Packer build and then point it to our template name, our Packer template, and we'll go ahead and build that sucker. So because we have our build pointing to the HCP Packer registry, should create some cool stuff. So we can go to the Amazon dashboard and verify the Packer's built images, but I'm just going to watch the console and make sure it does it here. I don't think I really need to do that. However, we can go to the image bucket in HCP and review the image metadata that Packer uploaded to HCP Packer registry. And it only stores image metadata, not the actual image itself. The image itself is stored in AWS in this case. So let's go check it out. All right, so here we are. Let's go back to our overview. So from Packer, I can see here I have a repository that we created, and I can see some metadata, right? So latest image iteration published today. So, and that is totally not clickable, but we're going to learn about iterations. So the main HCP dashboard lists like image buckets in the top category of the Packer registry, and each bucket maps to a Packer template. And notice that there's an ID, right? So in this case, like this is our ID. That's what I'm talking about. And this corresponds to a bucket name. And this bucket name is defined in your build Packer registry block. So that's where I got the build Packer registry bucket name is this. So I'm totally using that here, and that's where it came from. So if you select this, we can get some details about the image. Again, some nice description about the image, which is where we pulled this guy from. So we can get information about the bucket, such as description, labels. You can see here the labels. These are values defined in our template file. So if we go back here again, we can see here's our labels, foo bar in our foo version. And then you have image iterations. All right, so let's click on this and see what the hell this is. All right, so this is incomplete because it's still running. But eventually it'll just say V1 because this is version 1. Every time Packer builds a template, it creates an immutable record of the build called an image iteration. It can have multiple machine images associated with it, so depending on how many sources and destination regions your configuration defines, it will just have more. So each iteration is a unique identifier that maps the get SHA or the value set in HCP Packer build fingerprint. Okay, and that's this guy here. So if we click on this iteration, which we did here, you can see all this. Once we get to V1, there we go. We're at V0. So this right here is the unique identifier that maps to the get SHA. Okay, so that's how that works. And you can see our builds here. I've got one example east and one west, and they're still building. So each iteration has an immutable set of labels based on the Packer template. it has an author to track who made the changes, and at least one build that maps to the source configured in the Packer template. And we'll be able to see a lot more of this as soon as it's done. So if you click on either of these, we'll be able to view the image ID when it was created and all that stuff. So we'll go ahead and wait for this to finish, and then we'll move forward. All right, looks like it's done here. So we've got our builds here. We've got one in west, and I've got one in east. So let's go ahead and click on the one in just US West 1. See the link here? And we have our image ID and when it was created. Kind of cool, huh? All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and move forward. Now that I think we get how that works, and talk a little bit about channels. So just like software teams version and tag apps to track changes, you should version and tag your images. So HCP Packer channels let you label image iterations to describe the quality and stability of the build. And channels give you control over the delivery of your images, and other teams can dynamically query image based on the quality and stability they want. So this workflow kind of helps you like infrastructure stay up to date with minimal manual effort. It's less error prone, and you don't have to manually reference AMIs using tags. So we'll go ahead and create a new channel in the registry and query the channel and its build artifact metadata and use that image to deploy an instance with Terraform. So let's go ahead and update this channel to point to another iteration and then query that. So we could make another image iteration, I guess. We could do that first. Let's see here. Let's go here. And in this package here, we're going to make a new variable called version. I'm going to stick it up here. Ooh, data. I'm going to put it below data. Nah, we're going to put it above data. And I'm going to get rid of this empty space because it's driving me nuts. Okay. Yeah, so then we're going to update both image AMI names to include the version number by appending it with var version. Okay, so let's see, where's my AMI name? All right, here's one of them. And here's the other one. All right, so instead of having this Packer AWS timestamp, I'm just going to go underscore v and then dollar bracket var.version. And we're going to pull that out of the var. And I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put the same thing here so we get some versions. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and format this sucker in case I did it funky. No, it updated it, but not where I wanted it. Oh, I probably updated my variable. And then we're going to stage this template file, commit these changes. I'll just copy and paste because I have this here. Cool. And then we'll go ahead and build. So let's go ahead and build this. And then wait for this to build. So now we can add channels to the image bucket. So if we go to the dashboard, let me go back to this dashboard. We can select, let me go to overview. Yeah, here we go. So we've got our learn Packer, blah, 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 right? We can select this image we created in the previous section that I did, and our bucket will now have 2 iterations. So this is latest iteration, and we should see once it's done, yeah, see there's a V1 and then there's one that's incomplete. So we're going to have 2 iterations. Okay. So if we go to channels here, and we're going to make a new create a channel, like new channel here, and we'll just name this like production, and then you can assign an image to iterate. So right now I have this V1, right? So let's wait and do our V2 iteration once this is complete. And while I'm waiting, I'm going to go to US West 2 and US East 2, US West 2, and I'm going to just go to EC2, and we're going to check. We should have some images. Yep, so here's our new one that's building. And we're also going to have snapshots from the temporary instances that they created. I'm pulling this up so that we can clean up as soon as we're done. The other thing we're going to need to do is go over to US East 2 in Ohio. And here's our images there. And then I'm going to do the same thing for my snapshots, US East 2. So now I've got those ready to go. All right, so this is still running, and it's almost done though. All right, this is done. So should be able to go here, refresh, and see a V2. Sweet. So let's go to channel, new channel, name, production, iteration will be V2, create channel. And now I have a channel. Now you're going to see what I can do with this. So if I open up this TF channel directory, and you'll see in my main file, I have a Terraform file, providers HCP, right? And then I also pull in the AWS provider, and I use this var region, which is set to US East 2. And my data, I'm going to pull in the Packer iteration, which is Ubuntu, from this bucket in the channel production. So that's where the channel comes in. And then I'm going to pull in the Packer image for East 2 from this bucket, from this cloud provider, and get the iteration ID from here, passing as a data source for this region. And then on resource, I'm going to build an AWS instance called app server in here, called app server. And the AMI is just going to be the data from HCP, and it's going to build a T2 micro and then give it a tag, learn HCP Packer. So that'll be the name in US East 2. Okay. So let's go to this directory, to TF channels, and then let's do a little init, Terraform init. This is all going to be local as a root module. So there's no backend state or anything like that, just simple thing. And as soon as it's done initializing, I'm going to go ahead and apply. So Terraform apply. Let's check out this plan. So we should see that it's going to create an instance. Yeah, here we go. It's going to create an instance, app server, 1 to add, 0 to change, 0 to destroy. And my changes to my outputs. Here's my outputs. And I got everything I need. So the Ubuntu iteration output will return all the metadata about the iteration and shows that the second iteration. So we should see that iteration ID 01FN. Let's go check here. 01FN. Okay, because it grabbed the channel production and then grabbed the iteration from the channel. So this is all being dynamically populated. So let's go ahead and hit yes. Yes. And let her fly. So while this is building, I'll tell you, you can go back to this channels page and you can update it to point to a different iteration. So if we edit this here, you can at any point, you can change the iteration. So if this is broken, you can roll back just by changing the iteration, which we can do. And then when you do Terraform apply, it's going to read the production channel and see the iteration ID has changed from 01FN to whatever the SHA is for the other one. We'll see in a second after this is done being built. This takes forever. And then we'll just, here we go. And we'll just destroy it all when we're done. All right, so now I'm in West 2, I'm going to open up yet another console because I want to leave these open so I can delete it all later. And let's go to instances. And East 2, West 2, East 2, East 2. And there's our instance. Pretty cool, huh? So let's go ahead and requery our channel iteration. And we're going to do that by saying, where's my, our active iteration is V2. So we're going to change this to V1, update the channel, and we can see it's updated here. And let's see what happens when I run a Terraform apply again. So again, it's all dynamic. So it's going to read HCP and then go to the channel and then grab the channel, and it found changes to outputs because the iteration changed. So if I hit yes, I really want to type yours today. If I hit yes, it's going to destroy that instance. There it goes. And it's going to create a new one on the V1 iteration. So that's one simple way, if you're using HCP, you can use to version which image you're using. HCP is pretty cool. I don't think enough people use it, but it's pretty awesome. So we'll just wait for this to shut down. It's terminated. And then now that it's terminated, I've got one pending right here. And we're off and going. So there you go. So as soon as this is done, I'm going to go ahead and destroy it. But it took, what, a minute? How long did it take for this to make? 55 seconds? So we'll see. So yeah, I got another 40 seconds to go. So anyways, so that is a quick down and dirty overview on HCP's iterations and channels, and how you can change the active iteration on a channel and then import that as a data source in your Terraform files to pass your AMI ID. So you can pass this ID pretty easily. It's kind of cool that you can do that. So let's just double check here. We've got an instance, it's running, the rest of them are terminated. So we're going to clean up. So let's just do Terraform destroy. And then it's going to say, you want me to destroy all of this? And then I'm going to say, yes, I do want you to destroy all of that. And however long it takes for this state to refresh. Come on, let's go. But that's essentially how you use the HCP Packer registry. So now I'll just kind of query the channel and its build artifacts metadata, and use the AMI to deploy an EC2 instance. So I'll show you how to do that real quick. And this whole process, when they talk about querying HCP, that's what we just did. We just queried it. So now we're going to do what's kind of like an image pipeline. So traditionally you would coordinate with downstream teams whenever you update an upstream image. But with HCP and channels, upstream teams like security or platform, whoever, can update base images and use the channels to point to whatever the latest iteration is. So whenever somebody downstream rebuilds an image, Packer can automatically retrieve the channel's current iteration and rebuild with a new updated base image. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So let's look at our Packer application. Okay, we've got this little Packer application. It's not an application, it's just the Packer template for the application. And we've got this data source, HCP Packer iteration. And so this is where we're pulling in our data source. And the reference resource is the bucket name, right? And the channel. And we've got two images. We got Ubuntu East and Ubuntu West. US East 2, US West 2. Okay. Iteration, remember, can have multiple machine images from different cloud providers. So we have two HCP Packer image data sources, one for each region. They both have the same iteration. The two template blocks Where am I at? EBS. Yeah, these guys right here. They map to the base image in its respective region. So these images are different because every time you look at an image in a region, it could be the same type of image, but it'll have a different image ID. So that's why this is super, super powerful. It's also kind of nice because if you have multiple providers, you could have this use the same template to build basically something in AWS and something in GCP at the same time. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for that. It's going to build this in parallel. So to build a downstream image, we're going to go into this Packer application and then do a Packer init on our application. Whoa, I don't want to do that. Go away. Packer init on our application Packer HCL file. And we can go ahead and format this sucker for good measure. Looks okay. And then let's go ahead and build it. Packer build. And there we go. So this will give us our IDs. It's kind of like using regular Terraform, really. It's just you're building images instead of resources. Now, we did build resources with Terraform here in that previous section, but that's really it. So we'll just wait for this to finish, and then we're going to go to the image bucket in HCP here. And go to overview. Let me just go here. So it's already built an image bucket for us. So we can click on here, and it should show an associated, we've got an iteration, right? And the image metadata will pop up as soon as it's done, which really is just going to be like, it's on AWS, here's the AMI ID, and we built it on this date. And that's pretty much it. So that's kind of neat. The bucket having the name allows you, like anyone that can organize images and keep track of their dependencies, which is kind of useful when a different team updates an upstream image. And we can update the image channel as well. So you might need to revert to using a previous version of a base image and rebuild like a downstream image that's dependent on it. So we can go to this bucket, like this one, for example, and click on channels. And we already did this. And then, like I was saying before, you can be like, psych, I want to use a different version. And then you can update all of that. To rebuild the downstream image, the base image in a production channel will have a different base image. So you want to rebuild the application image on top of it. So this channel is basically like a downstream image. So if it's dependent on something, you can change this and be like, oh, whoa, if you're using V1, I got to go in here and update this. You could create a channel in here and be like, I need to put this iteration on the application channel. And it's just a way, it's their vernacular, their way of naming convention for just having different versions of things at different layers inside of your application. So if we wanted to rebuild the downstream image, we just export the fingerprint as an environment variable, build the Packer image, and then it would finish. So I can show you that really quick once this is done. But first you have to wait for it to finish. Oh, wait for AMI to become ready. All right, cool. So it's almost done. So what I could do is let's go to our Learn Packer Ubuntu bucket and then click on channels. And we're going to edit this, change this, and we're going to do this guy. And we're going to go update channel. Now we're going to rebuild the downstream image. So the base image production channel now points to a different base image. Now remember, it was referring to this as a data source when we built it, but now we changed this. So there was a Learn Packer Ubuntu bucket channel iteration dependency, and this dependency has changed. So now the other one might not work. So if you want to rebuild it, even though your template file hasn't changed, it can generate a new image due to the updated upstream image, this one. Since there are no changes to commit to Git, to generate a new fingerprint from the SHA, you have to manually create a new fingerprint for this build. So you create an environment variable named like HCP Packer build fingerprint, and I'm going to set it to a unique value. So in this case, like whatever the date is. Okay, so my fingerprint is application dash whatever the date is going to be. So we'll export that. And then even though I didn't change anything else, if I do Packer build with the same template, a Packer template, it's going to go ahead and start rebuilding stuff. And so this is one way you can get all your dependencies working so that your quote unquote pipeline is all good to go and your dependencies are met. So that's kind of nice. So if somebody changes something upstream, you can kind of rebuild things in Packer from downstream and still be able to work everything. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this. If you have any questions about using HCP Packer, let me know. Like I said, it is in beta, so it's kind of new to all of this. But as far as overviews and buckets and iterations and channels and setting active iterations and versioning and all that other stuff, pretty much covers it. So let me know if you have any questions. But if not, then what I'm going to do is as soon as this is done, don't forget to clean up. So I'm just going to go through here and delete all these AMIs that I've been creating and all the snapshots that I've been creating in both US West 1 and US East 1. And then I won't get billed for any of it. So we also need, because we have this running here, to destroy everything. So this Packer builder is running. Okay, so this has been terminated. So this will get terminated automatically as soon as it creates an image, which it's trying to do right now. And we can see that here. We're in Ohio. Let's go to Oregon. And here it is, it's pending. As soon as this one is pending, it's more likely going to go to Ohio and start making it there. So yeah, anyways, I'll go ahead and clean up. I won't let you wait for all this to finish. And yeah, in the next section, last section, I guess, we'll do one more minor thing with formatting, and then that should be it.